Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, Councillor Thompstone, I got your name right. If you'd like to come forward, and Mr. Harrison, please. Now, we have the call in regards to Mapledown. Councillor Rawlings, if you would like to lead, please, you trigger the call in.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the reason I called this in, obviously, was because it seemed, in a way, a cruel and unnecessary cut. Now, we knew there were cuts generally, Mapledown issue wasn't mentioned. It does seem to me that because of the lack of consultation, particularly about how it affects parents with severely disabled children, specific to their school, specific to the changes it makes, I'm willing to believe that the Cabinet or the CRC who did this variation hadn't thought through all the implications and would benefit from a chance to relook at what can be done. What I must admit surprised me was obviously there's been some publicity from all sides about it. Could I just explain? And I think one of the speakers, who mentioned the government seeing that respite care is a key part of the public health agenda. Therefore, it's legitimate to spend money out of the public health for carers. Somebody mentioned, I saw something which I think was an open letter about the budget. The alternate budget, then £600,000 more that the finance officer agreed out of public health, of which we put £260,000 aside to help carers. This is legitimate money. So the money is there in our budget. It is allowed to be used. The finance officers agreed and the government have agreed that this is a public health issue. So first of all, money was there. We voted for it, and you voted against giving £250,000 to support carers. It is a one-year thing, because I do think you have to look at sustainable funding. But there is absolutely no reason to refuse re-looking at this issue on the basis of funding, because we have been. You can still, as a council at the moment, you can pay where the public health money was went into to provide the leisure funding, because it's yet another one of Councillor Reuben's doing reviews that go completely wrong and had to be bailed out. That can be bailed out of the risk reserve. The finance officers agree. That money is available tomorrow if you want to use it. And all I am saying is, this is a cause to use it. To reverse you still have to extend the contracts, but the variation for Mapledown doesn't have to happen. The money's waiting for there if you want to use it. I think it should only be used for 1 year to give time to look for more sustainable funding. It doesn't affect the children's budget, so talking about how much the children's budget cuts and so on, fine, I agree the children's budget's been cut, but nobody's asking for it to come out of the children's budget, but out of the available public health budget. I really didn't think it would be a problem. I thought a mistake was made, we could reverse this, the parents would get that respite and we'd have time to reconsider it. But something else has come up that was mentioned, which I do want to get some advice from. The contract, CRC Group wanted to vary and extend the contract. We have called it in. Yet those cuts have happened during this holiday before the call-in has been heard. And I want to know is, given that we're still under a system of scrutiny, given we're still under a system of call-in, surely the status quo should have carried on until tonight. And so those cuts, to be honest, I don't know, were they unconstitutional?
I suspect the answer to that is no money will be paid out for no.
Councillor Councillor Salinger, if the questions firstly come through the chair, please. And we'll hear from Mr. Harrison and the Cabinet Member in a few moments.
We can do, but do realise what I'm saying? Now you will put that public health money.
I understand what you're saying.
But also the role of calling. If you call something in, but the decision's already put into practice before the calling is heard, doesn't that undermine this committee?
You make a valid point, but if you conclude the points that you're making, and then we can...
No, that's fine. I'll just leave it at that at the moment.
Okay. May I, in the first instance, go to Mr. Harrison, Councillor Thombstone, to answer that last point about putting the cuts into effect prior to the calling having been completed? Or,
yeah. So the calling refers to the report that went to the Cabinet Resources Committee on the 2nd of April.
yeah.
That report wasn't proposing cuts, it was proposing an extension to existing contracts. Because decisions have been made previously by the Cabinet, this report was actually asking for permission to extend contracts so that we can continue paying the providers. So you haven't been ignoring the calling, because the calling is about extending contracts, not about making us
Just on that particular point, and it is why I called it in. The actual COP report said to the extension and variation to the contract. Now, I've only called in the variation part. I quite agree with the extension of contracts that people get paid. That isn't part of the calling, but it wasn't just an extension. It had a variation, and the variation in the papers for Mapledown had the £45,000 caps in it. So I'm asking for that variation to be reconsidered. Yet it seems like that decision, those cuts are already been made before we've had a chance to decide at this committee whether we want to send it back or not. That's the point. And I think it's a constitutional point, and it may be unfair, but it may need advice on the...
I don't think we're necessarily going to get an answer on that this evening.
Yeah, I'm not trying to push something on that.
Councillor Thompson, there were a couple of issues that came up in the questions earlier that I deferred until you had come to the table. There was the question about visiting schools in consultation with parents and the effect on the parents and appreciating it when you were considering this on the 2nd of April. I wonder if you have any comments on that, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me first say that I'm pleased that I've had an opportunity this evening to hear some of the parents of the young people council, and I would have appreciated an opportunity to visit the school, given now some of the publicity that's been generated around this particular issue, which I've got no doubt is a genuine and very heartbreaking issue for the parents involved. When we're actually looking at what's being called into question here, there is a package of savings that has needed to be taken into place across the council, and people can try to point fingers as to why we're actually in the position that we are, and people can try to suggest that there's something that's not political about some of the decisions that are taking place. I think in a room full of grown-ups, we're probably looking a bit underneath the surface to know what the truth is to that. The reality is, we do have a change, we have a medium-term financial strategy that our council has had to take on board over the last 3 years that's meant significant reductions across all budget areas, including within
for a 3p a day cut in tax.
And over the next 3 years, it's not going to get any easier. So I can't sit here in the way that some of the opposition members might wish to try to suggest that there's a magic pot of money that we've got that we'll be able to try to find. Now, one could suggest that a particular line in an alternative budget is something that's not that very interesting as a suggestion.
3 pence a
but
day.
with regards to the
Councillor
actual...
Thompson, woman. It would be helpful that we could listen to the answer of the Cabinet Member without interjections from the gallery, please. I ask you politely if you can listen. Whether you agree with what is being said, that is another question. But if you can listen in silence, please, applauding as required. But
Could you indicate when to clap you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson, in other words, please don't heckle the speakers.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
It is not that sort of meeting this evening.
Yes, it is.
And please, Councillor Thompstone, if you'd like to continue.
Chairman, so if I continue, obviously the situation that we've found ourselves in with regards to the budget is a difficult one, and we need to make decisions that aren't decisions that we would want to take if we had greater funds to play with, but we don't. And
The most
one of the things that
severely
I'm actually
disabled children, to the most
Councillor
severely
Thompson, excuse me,
disabled
please,
children.
I've asked you
in
politely if you can listen, please. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Councillor.
I know that there'll be people in the room here who will never want to agree
Or
that
parents.
that was actually taking place by myself in producing this report and by the Cabinet Resources Committee, to which you're suggesting, or the member was suggesting referring it back to. I think actually the report is a good report, and I think that reserving many of the services that we have, and I think some people have spoken about short breaks, but there's a number of other services here that have had to see reductions, but that again we've been able to see a reduction in duplication, we've been able to see an increase in efficiency and an increase in early intervention coming out of it. So I think that actually, although I know I'm not going to convince everybody in here that that is actually why it's a good decision to take, there have been a lot of other tough decisions that we did look at. I know somebody who was sitting in this chair previously who talked about trying to explore other options would like to suggest that we didn't consider all the options. Actually, we are constantly in the process of looking at every option, and there will be more things that we're going to need to look at, and there will be tough decisions to take in the future. I don't say that with any sense other than the responsibility that there's something that needs to be done. I do feel very disappointed that people have decided to use this as a political vehicle. I do think
What is council political action?
I think when a member chooses to call this in so that somebody who identifies themselves as the Labour candidate for a particular constituency to actually motivate others to
One moment. If you could just move on from those comments, please, Councillor
Exactly.
Thompson. Thank you.
I think it's the right decision to make. I haven't taken any further questions.
Thank you very much indeed. We've got Councillor Salinger, Councillor Cohen, and then Councillor Moore. I had one question before we move on from Mr. Carroll. If you'd like to come to if you're prepared to come to the table, please.